Just a Job is the podcast for the modern woman to redefine what success looks like. We highlight real women and their real stories.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Just a Job. This is only the third time I've tried to start recording this, so apologies, but we're just little giggly girls over here. Ellen, how are you doing?
Great. We're very professional, obviously. It's like one of those afternoons where our brains are just a little fried, feeling a little goofy. We try to say something, we say the wrong word. So just roll the punches here with us. We have a short and sweet little stand up before we jump into Lexie's episode. And if you are watching this podcast, you will notice the gorgeous simpatico that is, we have the same outfits for our stand up and interview. I love when that happens. It's very rare, but just wanted to call it out because it makes me happy. Let's see. I have 2 notes. Sarah, what are your notes? And if you could use 2 words to describe your notes, what would you use?
Lacking and zero.
I'm sorry. Wow, I set you up for failure there. I'm sorry. I thought you had something. Really Otherwise, I wouldn't have said that. Oops. Well, on the theme of being silly girls, okay, I'll do my one story and then I have some questions for us and potentially a new segment that I would like to include. So the first being, unfortunately, kind of boring and not very exciting, but I think helpful and topical are difficult conversations at work. Unfortunately, I've had to have a few of those recently and they never get easier. I'm not one that like shies away from confrontation. I certainly don't enjoy it, but like if a conversation needs to be had, I will have one. And I was talking to Toby, my old boss, about it of like, hey, what kind of advice would you have in this kind of situation? And we were talking about it and she actually found this like influencer guy on, I'm sure he's on TikTok, but also on Instagram. And his name is Jefferson Fisher. And he's just such a cutie pie. And he actually gives really good like tangible advice of if someone interrupts you in a meeting, here are the things that you should say to like call it out and call it good. Or if you have someone that's very passive aggressive to you in emails, here's a way to go about that. So go check out Jefferson Fisher. He's like, again, he's, oh my God, he has 6 million followers on Instagram. Dang. Just again, quick scroll, easy things to just like keep in the back of your mind for if you have to have any sort of difficult conversation at work. A great way to just like scroll through and pick out a couple of phrases here and there, which I used and found particularly helpful. So if I can help one person have a difficult conversation at work, that makes me happy. So that's my first one.
Okay, love. We'll include Jefferson Fisher and his cutie pie Instagram self in our
you'll know what we mean when we say cutie pie. Go look and you'll be like, agreed, cutie pie.
Cutie pie.
Okay, my new segment, I got this from, this is kind of silly, from Molly May's interview with, I think, British Vogue. So clearly we're British Vogue over here. That's what I'm striving for. And she was doing an interview and her question was, what was your first, best, worst, and last jobs? And I think it was just like a fun way to like get to know someone. And as our podcast talks specifically about careers and jobs, I thought it would be fun for us to do. So Sarah, you get to go first. Will you please share with us your first job, your best job, your worst job, and your last job?
Totally. First job, much like every other female on the earth, babysitting.
Yep.
I loved babysitting. I didn't always love when the parents would like drive me home and you're like having to make awkward small talk at like 13 years old. But I did learn a lot of good skills from that. Mm-hmm. So that was the first paid gig I ever had. The best job, besides not having one, I was kidding. I feel like I've had a lot of really fun jobs. Like looking back, I think the most glamorous job was working in events because like working at a beautiful event space, both in terms of watching events come to life, but then also like we used it for like personal reasons too. Like we were like hanging out there. It was just a lot of fun. Plus it was a fun point of life. You've heard the story. That was probably the best. Worst. That's such a like hard word. I would say that job provided the worst times, because working at events is equally glamorous and exhausting and demanding, especially brides. Be nice to people.
Yep.
And last, my God, well, everybody knows 2024 was kind of a wild year for me. So Bank of America.
Wow, glamorous. I kind of forgot about that. Remember that one time you were in banking for 6 weeks? That was amazing.
Okay, you say 6, I say 8.
Oh, sorry. I pulled that one out of the air. I didn't know that for a fact. I just made that up.
You're fine. That those 2 weeks matter, Ellen. Okay, that is my list. Yours, Ellen?
I have to keep looking down because I'm like,
I know.
the 4 words, I'm like, I said it so fast.
I
And
know,
what
I
order
feel
did they
so.
go in?
Yeah, same.
Which, okay, good to know for guests. We'll have to like space it out in a way. But my first job was babysitting. I babysat primarily for one family for years, and they were incredible. And like, I still follow them on Instagram, and the girls are like in college now, which is nuts. But it's nice that I'm still connected with them. They're sweetie pies. Best job, honestly, I think it was teaching spin class. I absolutely loved that.
I totally forgot part-time jobs too and all
Well,
of this.
yeah, I like it. I don't know. You just do so many things and you just kind of like move from one to the next and don't, I don't know, maybe like consider them. But
Yeah.
I think teaching spin was incredible. It was like the one place I really got to build community myself in Kansas City. And then obviously, like the physical aspect was really nice. And it was just a good way to decompress after work. So that I think was my best. My worst, first job out of college. That was rough. For many reasons. I think the biggest reason was I commuted over an hour to and from work every day, and I worked 12-hour days. It was brutal. Yep, that was definitely the worst. And
Next.
my last job was at Intuit. Banking girls, look at us.
Yeah, did you
And
last
now
more
that
than 8
it's,
weeks?
oh my God. Yeah, I lasted more than 8 weeks. But now that it's tax season, I feel like they can't leave me alone. Like the amount of commercials and advertisements I see for Intuit QuickBooks or TurboTax, I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
I get like the twitches a little bit, but
Yeah, no kidding. Every time a commercial comes on, I think of you.
oh,
So.
great. That makes me The funny thing is too, like the work I did there was not even, I didn't touch TurboTax whatsoever. So, you know, all on a day's work, but I hope everyone enjoyed that little segment. I just,
Thanks, Helen, for bringing that.
I,
It was fun.
I also am just obsessed with Molly May. Like she is everything to me. But when she did the little interview segment, I was like, this would be really cute to do for the podcast. So we'll start picking it up and hopefully we remember it for our upcoming interview next week. But before we jump into Lexie's interview, I get to ask it this time. Sarah, any parting thoughts?
Ooh, if you are, this is not fun. It's
That's
not
okay.
sexy, but it's reality. If you have any part-time gigs, 1099, or also are just a human that exists in the US, tax season is upon us. Thanks, Ellen. You and you're into it, gig. So if you want to work ahead, I would encourage you to do it. So maybe you spend some time this weekend like I'm planning to do, and you get to work on your taxes.
And my taxes from this past year are freaking nuts. So that's very good, tangible advice. Good life advice. Go fix your
Yeah.
taxes.
Yeah.
One sure
Do it
thing in this
early.
life
Don't
is
stress yourself
taxes.
out. Yeah.
Amen. Holy moly. Well, that is a good adult thing. Go look at, already forgot his name. What was it?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey? Oh my God. Go away. There we go. Go check out Jeffrey's content and go do your taxes. And enjoy Lexie's episode. Thanks everybody for listening. Have a good one.
Hey, everybody. Today we are joined by Lexie Townsend. Lexie is a Dallas based content creator and the founder of Happy Hours Social Club, a national group connecting women and brands through monthly events. Before taking personal endeavors full time, she worked in a variety of roles from engineering to marketing at companies of all sizes. When she's not working, she is probably hosting her friends and family or spending time with her husband and golden retriever, Molly. Thanks, Lexie, for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes. So, oh, go ahead, Ellen. Sorry.
my God. We're starting already. What are we, 2 minutes in? We're interrupting each other. Um, I love when people have like random, not random, but like unexpected career pivots and engineering, content creation. Like, I'm sure that there's some overlap there and I'm interested to hear about it, but I'm like already intrigued. And also, your golden retriever named Molly. That's so cute. Oh my God. Like,
I'm
so
obsessed with
wholesome.
her.
So
Mm.
wholesome. But we're excited to have you here today. So, Lexie, we're going to start way back at the beginning. And can you tell us what you wanted to be when you were growing up?
Yes, I think the only job I can remember when I was little that I wanted to do was being a teacher. I used to love like younger kids. I thought that that would be so much fun. So I wanted to be like an elementary school teacher. But then I feel like once I got into high school and then into college, if you asked me at any given year what I wanted to be, probably changed every time. I was a little bit all over the place, which kind of lines up with, what you'll see my career became.
You're like a woman of all interests. That's funny to hear, like the teacher aspect, because I feel like a lot of women that want to be teachers end up like sticking with it for the long haul. Did you have any influence outside of just like the desire to be around kids?
No, I don't think so. I think it was kind of just like random when I was little. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I like to, teach people different things, but it didn't last long. But when I was little, I was like, oh, I'll be a teacher.
I'll be a
Probably
teacher.
just my teachers at the time.
That's true. Yeah, like all of the teachers that you had played a huge part in what you wanted to be when you were growing up. Okay, so you mentioned in high school, college, things kind of started to shift. Where did you go to school and what was your major? And did you change at any point?
Yeah, so I went to SMU, Southern Methodist University here in Dallas, and my degree never changed, but I had a very interesting combination of degrees. So I was in the engineering school. So I was studying what we called EMIS at SMU, which stood for Engineering Management Information and Systems. So it was in the engineering school, kind of similar to industrial engineering at a lot of other schools. So it was a mix of, I don't know, we did some coding, we did some modeling, but it was also taking some classes in the business school as well. So I always explain it as blending together business and then more of the technical skill set that comes with the engineering piece of it. And then I double majored in dance performance. So I also have a
A
BFA in dance
woman, a many
performance, which
talent.
is so random. But yeah, so I feel like I'm just always busy, and that goes way back to when I was little. So yeah, I was running all around campus all the time.
Oh my God. Yeah, just a little bit of free time it sounds like you probably had. My sister is an engineer and hearing her experience in college of how she was like four girls out of her entire program. Did you have that experience? And if so, what was it like?
Actually, at SMU, especially in the program that I was in, we had a ton of women in that program, which is great. I mean, I say a ton,
Girl
I think it was
power.
probably 30% women, but it was great. All of my, I was studying with women all the time. And so I didn't really experience feeling like I was like the only girl in the program, but I was also a dance major. So like I was around women all the time. So
Yeah.
my time actually in the engineering building was somewhat limited. It was just going to my classes normally with a leotard under my clothes and then running to my next dance class. So
Oh my gosh. I feel like this is the set or the description of a movie. I don't know, where it's
Totally.
like you're living like a Disney Channel movie. You're living a double life in this, like male dominated field and then you're also like a ballerina. How the heck, I hate this question, but like how the heck did you balance or juggle it all, or like looking back now, was it just youthfulness that kept you going?
probably just youthfulness. I have no idea. I mean, I think going back, even I was thinking about this yesterday, like thinking about myself, even as far back as elementary school, I was always doing so many different things. Growing up, I was a competitive swimmer and a dancer. And so I used to have my mom or dad, normally my mom, pick me up from school and she would have a snack and my like swimsuit in the car. And so I would change into my swimsuit, run to swim practice, which was 2 hours from like 3:30 to 5:30. Then my dad would pick me up with my dance bag and I would change into my dance clothes and then go dance from like 6 to 8 or something crazy. So I was like that busy even as an elementary school kid. So I think I'm just used to being busy and that just never stopped going into college. So, oh my gosh, how I balanced it, I'm really not sure. I was just kind of running around like a crazy woman, but I think I thrive in chaos. Like we were dancing 7 hours a day on like a normal day when everything was, when we had rehearsals and classes and everything. And then I was just running to engineering class and studying in between as much as I could.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God, good
gosh.
for
I'm
you.
tired thinking
I
about it.
know. Oh, I feel like, oh God, now I'm complaining like, oh, I have to work for 8 hours and
Oh
then,
my
oh no, like, oh, my life is so hard. But it is like college is just such like, you look back on it of like with such fondness, right? Like, oh, I
Mhm.
loved that time of my life. But then you really like sit and think about it and you're like, how the hell did I do that? Like,
no.
again,
Mhm.
no one prepares you for what it's going to be, and no one prepares you for what life outside of college is going to be either. So lots of learning going on. Lexi, I'm curious, during your time in school, like, were you, while you had your degree selected, were you like, I know for sure I want to be an engineer post college? Like, what did your ideation of your career look like at that time?
Yeah, from high school, I was always very much so a math science person. So, really, when I chose that degree, I really just looked at what am I good at? What classes do I actually enjoy the most? And then was also thinking forward of what type of career opportunities I could get. So, I definitely thought for a while about doing business and doing, more of like a traditional business major, but I knew that I had that mind for like math and science, and I felt like I would, be able to do it at the more like engineering level. And so I kind of approached it as I'll have this degree and that's going to be something that no one can take away from me. And I feel like with that degree, I can pivot. So I could position myself to be in a business role because we took marketing and I took accounting and I understood that side of things. But I could also position it to do something maybe more technical if that's what I decided I wanted to be. So I almost saw the degree as one that would give me the most opportunities and open the most doors. And then I knew that I could position it, in the way that I wanted. So I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do at the time. I originally wanted to be like a management consultant. So I went down that path for a while, did an internship at a company that does that. And then just throughout time, it just kind of changed and evolved. But that was probably my first thought as a freshman. I would have told you I wanted to be a consultant.
That is
Okay.
hysterical. Like, that is rare, I will say. What, two questions off of that. One, like, how did you have that, I'll say like wisdom almost to be able to go into school and be like, I want something that's going to be able to give me flexibility in my career. Most 18-year-olds do not have that kind of perspective. One, and then two, management consultant. Where the heck did that come from?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I remember touring, and when I was looking for colleges, I was looking for so many different things. Dance was definitely a really important part of my life, and I took that really seriously growing up, but I did mostly ballet growing up. And the industry has changed a lot over time, but even back then it was when you were 14, I would spend the summers dancing with a company in the city that they were in. I spent a summer in San Francisco dancing with San Francisco Ballet, and you kind of had to decide then, is this what I want to do? Do I want to be a professional ballerina? And if so, you kind of have to let go of the traditional high school experience. And so I had made the decision back then that I don't think I want to give that all up, but I love dancing and it's something that I want to keep up. So even looking at colleges, I knew that I might want to dance, but I knew that I didn't want dance to be my long term plan. And I was open to dancing after college if the opportunity presented itself, but that wasn't necessarily my plan. So as I started looking at schools, I wanted somewhere that would let me dance and be a dance major. I wanted the degree. I didn't want to just, do like a
Mm.
extracurricular,
Mhm.
because I wanted to take it really seriously, but I also wanted to ensure that they would let you double major. And that's actually really rare at a lot of schools. So I kind of, not a backup plan, but I just wanted to have my options open. So that's where I started. And I just remember touring SMU. They talked a lot about this degree that I did specifically. And I really think they probably played a role in convincing me of it. And of course, my parents, helped me make that decision as well. But it was like, let's just give it a shot. It would be, cool to say that I have an engineering degree if I'm able to do it. And so I don't know if I had all of that insight at the time, but it just all kind of fell into place that I toured. I sat down with a mentor in the engineering school and they explained to me what type of jobs people with this degree went on to do. And I think
Mm.
that's probably what opened my eyes to the consulting world and understanding what that role looks like. And they were present on campus a lot as well. So I went to, different opportunities that I could learn about what those roles looked like. And they just sounded really exciting to me.
Ooh, I feel like I need that person in my life now.
Help me. What do I do?
Help me. Yeah, tell me what I can use with my like skills and everything I've learned. I love that you had the foresight to continue with a passion of yours and not have it be an extracurricular, because college is obviously very fundamental in terms of like career, but you think about what you did in high school and so many people were involved in extracurriculars, whether it was like intensely or just on the side, and then you get to college and it just kind of drops off.
Mhm.
So I love that you were able to like continue it and get a degree and like have paper with your name on it. I think that's badass, honestly. Um, so Lexi, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but internships with double major, did you have to have an internship for both? And if so, like how did you select when and where to do that?
I actually don't think that it was a requirement for either one of my majors, but I did know that it was really important to have experience on my resume. And I do think that SMU did a really good job of educating us on that. And so it really from freshman year, it kind of just seemed to be a thing that everyone was like, okay, what internships are we doing? How do we get them? What does that look like? And so I think my first internship, it was with like an electrical contractor when I was home for the summer, which is like where my dad works. And so that was just one that wasn't one that I was like seeking out necessarily, but I think it was probably my mom that was like, you should probably like, have some experience on your resume, like you need to work. And I had jobs in high school as well. Like that was always something that I did over the summer. And so I did that to have something on my resume. And then as I started my sophomore year, I got connected with a startup company that was called Rent My Wardrobe. And so it's not around anymore, but it was basically a way that people could rent out their closets. And it's interesting because we worked with a lot of influencers because we were using them to rent out their closets as like our first kind of target demographic. And so it was just really the founder. She had two engineers and then myself. And I can't even remember how I got connected with her initially, but that was just something fun that I got to do on the side. And I really got to learn what it looked like to be an entrepreneur. And I just was doing a bunch of different things for her. And that was so much fun. And then from there, I always had that consulting in the back of my mind, but I actually went to a resume clinic. And so this is like my biggest piece of advice for anyone in college is just to go to everything that is offered because it was like a resume how to or like something like that is what it was marketed as. And again, probably in my leotard with the blazer over it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to stop by. And like every time I would go to something like this, it would be like the last thing that I wanted to do. But for whatever reason, I was like, I just felt like I needed to go and at least show my face and see what it was like. And sometimes, you can just leave if it's not what you want. But when I got there, you waited in line and you actually sat down with a recruiter at a variety of different companies and they reviewed your resume in real time. So I sat down with a recruiter at AT&T. He reviewed my resume. He's like, you know what? You would be the perfect fit for this technology development program that we have. We'd love, if you're interested for you to apply. And that was really my first big corporate internship was with AT&T. And I think I went to that in September. And I knew that I was going to have an internship the next summer that early, which was amazing just to know that I had that. And then same thing, I also interned at EY in their tech consulting program. And it was the same thing. I heard through the grapevine that they were going to be on campus. They were actually in the business school, but I ran over there because I heard they were going to be there, just dropped my resume off, met someone, and that led to an internship there, which was really exciting. And I think that was all of my internships. But then, by senior year, I had on my resume one of the big four consulting firms, a huge corporation, AT&T. Like I really had a pretty stacked resume that I was really proud of, honestly. But it happened because I went to those events and just like put myself out there.
It's such a good advice. Sorry, Sarah.
It's okay, go ahead.
Keep doing it. But I mean, like the non-sexy parts of college are like going to those. I love that you called it a resume clinic. Like I've never heard a clinic be associated with resume so far, but I think that's really fun. It's like cooler than saying a workshop or something,
Right.
And that's like, again, the unsexy parts of college that like you have to do. And when you go, you're not excited to go. You're like, this is so stupid. But then you get there and you're like, oh my God, wow, what a wonderful use of my time. And in your experience, it landed you two wonderful internships that I'm assuming helped like greatly shape the start of your career. So, what were those two internships like? Give me like a high and a low and something that you learned from them.
So I think at AT&T, it was an amazing experience because basically, and this actually ended up being my first full-time job. It was something called the Technology Development Program. So it was full-time, a rotational program where they saw you as a young, kind of tech-minded individual, and they would throw you into projects and really just let you run. And they even let us do that as an intern, which was amazing
Mm.
because you feel like you don't really know what you're doing, but in that position, they valued your opinion so much because it would be, someone who is maybe older, who's been doing the same thing for so long, and they just look at you and they're like, what could we be doing better? What's not efficient here? How do we do this better? So that was so exciting for me. And I think what helped me recognize my value really early on because they made you feel that way. They empowered you to bring your perspective to the table even as an intern, which was really cool. So high of that was just the opportunity to be in the room, to get to learn from so many different people and hear from other interns what projects they were working on because everyone was working on something very, very different, but we got visibility into the companies. Well, first, one more high was that this one was in person, which was great because this was pre-COVID. So that was like my first in-person experience, which was amazing. And honestly, for a low for that, oh my gosh, I can't even think of a low, which seems crazy, but it was just an exciting experience. Like I felt like I was a little corporate girl going downtown to my job, and I met so many awesome friends through that experience, and we really just had like the time of our life, going to lunch, getting drinks after work. Like it was so fun. So
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think I have a low from that, which is crazy. And then the next one, the one with EY, that was right during COVID. It was the summer of 2020. And so that one, the low definitely was just like working virtually for the first time and having to figure out what that looked like. Now I'm, of course, so used to that. But going from being in person and having so much fun and feeling really connected to the virtual experience was super different and definitely, a little less exciting when you're just sitting in front of your laptop all day. But high from that was the same thing. I was just getting visibility into some really exciting projects, and it was just a great experience that I took with me into my full-time jobs.
Good experiences all around. Even just you talking about like your first internship and, like getting your corporate clothes
Yeah,
and making your coffee in the morning and like commuting. Like, wasn't that so fun?
no, I was obsessed with it. Like I loved it.
Why? I know. Me too. I remember like going and working in downtown Kansas City as if it was like working in downtown Manhattan. And I'm like,
Totally. Totally.
why was this so fun? And now I'm like, oh my god, you couldn't pay me enough. Um, okay, so internships led you to your first job. What was that transition like, especially knowing that you had, a relationship with the company and with the people from your internship, and then transitioning into a role full time while also like navigating life outside of school?
Yeah. So I think I got really lucky, and I do think a lot of it was from the internships that I had. But when I had the internship with AT&T, they had offered me to come back the next summer at the end of the first summer. And it was something that I thought about a lot, but I went back to them and I said, I've had the most incredible experience here. I've loved my experience. I think this is a place I could see myself more long term. But I think it's really important at this point in my career, like given that this was an internship, that next summer I try something different just to know what it's like somewhere else so that I could maybe come back. So I think it's just important leaving things on really good terms in the first place, wherever it is,
Mhm.
even if you hate it, like leaving in a positive way because you never know when your roads could, cross again. And so I told them that, and they were super receptive to that. They completely understood. And they were like, well, the door's open if you ever want to circle back. So I kept those contacts and stayed in touch with them. And then after the EY internship, they actually offered me a full-time job coming off of that because I had one more year of school left. And so that was a role that was starting the summer after I took a fifth year because of the double major. So my victory lap. But I had an opportunity there. So it was actually, this was kind of an interesting learning experience, but they said I had 2 weeks to accept the offer. And that was like really tough because I wanted to circle
Mhm.
back with my contacts from the other company. And so this is probably not good advice, but I did accept the offer because I was like, I have an offer on the table. I like can't say no to this. I don't, what if it doesn't work out with the other place? And I did have to go back on my offer because I ended up getting one from the other company as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I was kind of in the position that, I didn't really have an option at that point. So that was something I really struggled with. But, what a great problem to have, like having multiple offers coming out of college, which was really exciting, but it was hard to make that decision.
And so then following that up, like now getting into the seat and like working full time, transitioning out of school Lexie and like into full-time employee Lexie, how was that?
I think I was so ready for it. Having done the internships, I really enjoyed them. And I was just so burnt out of school. I had some friends that were like getting their masters and other things. I was like, I don't think I can do one more day of school. I was just so ready to hit the ground running because I had taken a 5th year as well. Like I watched my friends move into the more post-grad life. My roommate at the time was post-grad, but I was still going to class. So I almost had a very natural transition because I was living with someone who was post-grad, kind of doing some of the post-grad things outside of the classes, and then just wanting to be in that phase so badly. So I think it was a pretty natural transition, and I didn't move cities. I stayed in Dallas. So I was living in the same place. I just didn't have to go to class anymore. And instead I went to work. And honestly, I know it's different for everyone, but I kind of loved it because I was just so burnt out of school at the time that I was like, please
get me at a desk.
Yeah. I'm ready
no
for a change.
Yes.
No more studying.
I can so sympathize with that. Like the thought of ever having to go back to school, even at this point, like I was very solidified in once I graduated college, like no more school. And I'm still very much team no school. Like I cannot, like having to take a test again. Oh my God. Or having to study sounds like torture.
It really
not to be dramatic, but what was your first job? How long were you there? And what was your experience like? So did you have, like, when you were in that job, were you there for a long time? Did you go find something else quickly? Did something come and find you? What was that like?
Yeah, so I kind of shared a little bit about what that program looks like at AT&T. That's where I took the full-time role. So it was called the Technology Development Program. And it was that same situation as the internship where you were thrown into projects. It was a rotational program full-time. So you only spent about 6 months in each role. So that kept things really exciting and allowed you to work cross-functionally very quickly as a new hire. So I had a couple different roles. I think I did 3 rotations, or I was just starting my 3rd rotation when I ended up leaving. But what was cool about it was that we had our program, then we were all on different teams for the day-to-day. So we got to work with people who are really high up in the company and get a lot of visibility. I interviewed our CEO on behalf of like our team or our program, which was so exciting. So they do just such a great job of like throwing opportunities at you. And like if you grab them, there was a lot of opportunity. So I felt very excited in that role, like very motivated. I was also like this is so classic of me. I was like hosting events for our program as well, like doing the fun social stuff as well. So I just was kind of doing a bunch of different things in that role, and it was really fun. But towards the end, what I really just started realizing was that I just wasn't super passionate about the work that we were doing at the end of the day. Like the environment was amazing. I felt very valued. I was, my work-life balance was amazing, but I just like wasn't waking up getting excited to work on like Wi-Fi. And that's what I was doing at the time. I was working on the broadband team, and I was like, this just doesn't really get me excited. And like, what would I be really excited about? And that's where I started looking and applying for jobs that were just companies that what they were doing was exciting to me, because I felt like if I could just be super pumped about what the company was doing at the end of the day, that would just add that extra layer that I didn't have in my current role. So I ended up being there for about 1.5 years, and then I got the next opportunity, which is when I transitioned.
Yeah. You're hitting on, we talk a lot about like the 3s that of like why you stick around at a job, and it's either like the people, the money, or like the work that you're doing. And it sounds like you really enjoy the people, financial factors outside of it, but like the work started to become something that wasn't like engaging. And I really admire, especially so early on in your career, that you continue to like listen to that inner self and say like, yeah, this really isn't it. Because I think a lot of people in their first jobs sometimes think like, oh, I'm not it, like that's just how it is, and like I'll just continue to work. But it obviously was a priority to you, and that's why you can, you know, continue to apply to other jobs. um at what point, and maybe you're getting to this and I'm kind of just jumping the gun, but like at what point in all of this did you start focusing on like yourself and your like personal content creation?
So it was happening probably about 6 months before I ended up changing jobs. So it was about a year, I guess even less than a year, maybe like 8 months into my first job out of college. And I really fell into the content space kind of on accident. And I got married that year that first year that I was working, and I posted a TikTok from my wedding, and it just went viral like out of nowhere. And I've always been someone that loves social media, like even back to 8th grade. Like I was consistently posting. I loved the editing. Like that was kind of my creative outlet and I loved it, but I never had a following or took it seriously in that way. But it was definitely something that, I was like, that would be such a cool thing to do, but I just never did it. And so, really, from the second that video went viral, something just kind of like switched in my brain that I was like, whoa, okay, this could be an opportunity. And I'm not going to let this pass by because I've always been interested in this space. And really, I think from the day that that first video went viral, I posted every single day, maybe twice a day, every day. And like, I haven't stopped. And that was almost 3 years ago. So I like just committed and was in and was going to do whatever I could to keep that momentum. And at first, it was just wedding content. I was like on Wedding Talk. If you find those videos, like please do not watch them. Anyone listening to this, like keep looking because it is so embarrassing. Like it's really like the cringiest thing ever, but it's how I started and I'm thankful for it. But wow, I've learned a lot since then on how to make good content, hopefully or better content, let's just say. But it worked at the time and it was bringing people some value in some way, obviously. So that's when I started. And then I started transitioning pretty quickly into more lifestyle content. I knew I didn't want to post about my wedding forever. And so I really quickly started doing day in the life vlogs, showing, myself going to my corporate job, what it looked like to balance doing content and being, someone with a 9 to 5. And from that growth on socials, when I started the brand that I have now, which is Happy Hour Social Club, which then connects people in real life, that all came organically from my socials kind of taking off. I wanted to find a way to build that connection in person. And that's where the social club kind of came up. So,
yeah. Shameless plug, but like that's how I initially found you. I was trying to think, Lexie, about the first time I feel like I saw you on social, and I want to say it was Instagram. I don't know, just like in the explore page. I don't know. And this is like you're just so relatable. I feel like is that I don't know if you get that a lot, but I just felt like I was watching like Ellen post on social. Like I felt like I was watching a friend, and obviously like followed you and have been following you since. So it's been really cool to see. And then like we'll talk about this later, but like, when we started working at the same company, I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed to like say this. I'm sure you get it a lot, but yeah, so that's just a little like accolade for you. I think that you have like amazing content and you make it feel like everybody's hanging out with you.
I have to add to this because not to like totally out myself and like be a total dork, but I'm gonna do it. I can own it. Whenever Sarah and I like have a guest that we're like, oh, we're really excited about this person, we'll send like a little blurb about like why we think that they're interesting, for example. And so Sarah texted me a little while ago and was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have Lexie on, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, I have followed her on TikTok forever. I was like, exactly what you're talking about. I love her clothes. Like I know like that trip you went on recently. I was like, oh my God, I really liked one of her swimsuits. I almost bought it. Like I'm totally a little fangirl over here. So you're doing incredible.
Thank you.
100% the relatability piece that Sarah touched on. I think like it's tough to find within just like social media in general. And something that I find really interesting within like the social media space is the strategy behind it. And so can you talk to us a little bit about how you use like your personal platform in conjunction with the oh my God, I'm blanking on the name of the social club.
Happy Hours.
of happy hour. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, no.
Talk to us about how like you blended this your personal account with Happy Hour Social Club and like how it came to be and kind of it sounds very organic like if I'm just looking at it from like a an audience perspective, but like how did you consciously come up with that and bring the two together?
That's a great question. It really, I feel like happy hours was almost born out of my personal content. And what was happening, or what happened that really sparked this idea, was as I was starting to grow, and this was at the very beginning when I was doing wedding content and just starting to share some of the vlogs and like day in my life type of content. I shared that I was in Dallas and would also share some local content of like restaurants and different things like that. And I would get DMs or comments or messages for, from people that had recently moved to Dallas post grad, or had been in Dallas for a little while but didn't feel super connected. And they would just reach out and say, hey, we seem really similar. Would you want to grab coffee, or would you want to grab a drink? And I loved that because I still lived in Dallas, but so many of my college friends had moved away that I was also looking for community, and also realizing that it was a little hard to make friends when you're working full time and working from home, especially. And so I got coffee with a couple of the people. I made friends through that. And then I just started thinking a little bigger and was like, okay, this is definitely a need. There's definitely a need here for community. This is something that I would love. And I've always loved hosting. That's one of my favorite things to do. Our house is always filled with people. And so I was like, okay, I love to host. I feel like, I hate knowing that some people are working from home, that they're in a new city and they don't have connection. They might be feeling lonely. I've been there. How do I like bridge those two together and build something that can help people feel more connected? And so that's where the idea stemmed from. And from there, I just posted that on TikTok one day, and it really took off. There was a ton of interest. People wanted to do something. And originally I was like, I'll just host like one little picnic or something, like something small, little get together. And there was just so much excitement around it that then my brain started spinning a little bit, that I was like, oh, I could do like a fun logo, or like I could make this maybe a thing and we can see. And did the first event and posted about that on my TikTok, and that one went viral. And really from there, it was just consistency after that. So I kind of, I guess, then started to separate them a little bit, where I started an account for the social club and started posting there. But always in my content, I would talk about balancing a 9 to 5 and content creation and running this social club. And it was just like a natural part of my content because it was such a big part of my life at the time, when I was, planning a monthly event by myself every month. So it was just organic.
I love when we're able to talk with women and like their career or basically any part of their life happens so organically, which Lexie, it sounds like this was the case for you, was an interest, but also a need. And it brought people together. And there's like truly no better sense, I think, of like that post get together where you're just like, that was so lovely. Like, why don't I do that more often? And knowing that you're being able to create a space that provides that for other women, I'm like, damn it, I want to move to Dallas. Like, and I know that you're in different cities. And we're going to kind of take it back to this, but I want to know, like, this is growing, this is building. You're also starting a new job and a new company. What is like going on in your life right now, and how are you managing all of it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really do like thrive in chaos. I don't know why I'm that way. I like feel like there's just something that likes high stress, and that's probably a problem that I need to look into, but I do my best work when I'm under pressure. And so I'm just always looking for something to keep me busy. So I think I was just used to that, environment of like running from one thing to the other. So there was definitely not balance, but I was just doing what I could when I could. And I'm a night owl, so I'm up late every night doing things. So that is when I was doing most of the work for the social club. But it was actually really cool how everything came together with the job that I moved into. I worked the job, and the one that we worked at the same company was like in the creator space. And so what had happened was I was on the platform as a creator, and I was actually recognized like as a creator on the platform. And they invited me to come into their office for a happy hour, where they were inviting a bunch of their clients in for a happy hour and for like, educational, kind of evening about the platform. And that was such an honor for me because I was really small at the time, and I really felt seen in that. And it was also a company that I had looked up to forever. The founders of the company went to SMU. I went to SMU. So it had always been on my radar and was really what I would say was my dream company. But I just always envisioned myself doing like an engineering role there. And I had applied for quite a few, but nothing had come through. You know, they were really looking for people with a lot more experience than I had. So going to that event, I went into it with like, I'm excited to be here as one of their clients, but I want to work here. So how do I use this experience to make a connection and to maybe get a job? And so I went into it with that attitude, and I was honestly just pretty bold and went up to someone that worked there and was like, hi, like I gave them a little elevator pitch. I was like, I'm a creator. I, love this company. I've always wanted to work here. Is there anyone I can talk to about that? And they connected me with who ended up being my boss. We met. I gave her a little pitch. She was like, I actually have a role on my team right now. I'll text you the link to apply. I applied, and that is the job that I took 4 weeks later. So it was crazy how everything just kind of came together. Like I was using the platform as a creator. I was a creator myself, but then I got to start working at the company. So then it just like everything started aligning, that I was learning from all different angles and able to like take learnings from the different places and apply them to either my own personal content journey or take that creator perspective and bring that to the company I was working for to help them improve, their platform. And it all just kind of came together that it almost felt like everything was working in tandem versus, like having to do so many different things. I don't know how to explain it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Your journey is equally organic, but also like you're very strategic, and I appreciate it. Like you mean business, right? It's not just like, oh, this fell into my lap, like
Right.
la-di-da. It's like you're like, no, I earned this, So I see that. I respect that for sure.
Yeah, you got to be bold. That's like one of my biggest pieces of advice. I'm like, the worst thing someone can say is no. It's so scary. But now I feel like I've done it so much that I'm like, I have nothing to lose. But at the beginning, it was terrifying to do things like that. But looking back, like putting myself out there in all those different ways are what has led me to where I wanted to be, which is crazy, but you just have to ask sometimes.
Yeah. Sarah, I was thinking a similar thing of like Lexie, when you were saying, oh, it just all kind of came together in my mind. I'm like, no, not really. Like you put in the work, you posted consistently, you built a following, you like effectively started your own company, you went to this happy hour, you went up. I mean, like these are all actions that you took, right? To excel in your career. So yes, of course, it like naturally came together in this beautiful bow of, a goal that you had, but you went and did it. And Sarah and I are preparing for a like speaking event at a college coming up. And we're talking to young women specifically about like, what are the things you can be doing now to set yourself up for success in the future? And I love like a couple of pieces of advice that you had where, it all is kind of like, to use your words again, is coming together in the sense of like, you're continuously putting yourself out there. You're doing something that maybe could be a little uncomfortable at the time, but just like you said as well, you never know if you don't ask. And to that point, look where it's led you, right? So I think that's a really good example to give young women in college. Just, you have to do the uncomfortable things sometimes and look where it could potentially lead you, right?
Absolutely. That is perfectly said. I completely agree. And I think even towards the end of college, I definitely saw also some people with, my same major who didn't have opportunities, and they were like, I don't understand how to find a job, or I don't know how to go about this. And I remember thinking when I would go to some of these events, sometimes there would be like 5 people that would come. And I remember being there like, why did no one come to this? Like, this is such an amazing opportunity. But at the same time, I had to drag myself there. So like, I understood at the same time, like it's really easy to talk yourself out of something and say, oh, this is probably not going to go anywhere. And I do the same thing even today. If I get invited to an event or there's an opportunity, but I always in the back of my mind check myself and remind myself, like, think about all of the amazing opportunities that have come from you just showing up somewhere. And like, I don't know if that's like a healthy thing, but sometimes I'm like, no, you have to go. Like, you need to go, and you can. And I always say you can go for 5 minutes. And if you feel uncomfortable, and I would say the same about even like a happy hours event, like if you're uncomfortable coming to something by yourself, or you're trying to make friends, or you're trying to get a job, like, go, but you can always leave. Like, there's always the option to just walk out if you feel uncomfortable. But every time I've gone to something, normally it leads to something different, or it builds a connection that, you never know how that could help you in the future. So,
right. Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's either.
And
Oh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's either a good story or, oh my god, never mind.
I know what you're saying.
What does Michael
What you're
say?
saying.
Yeah, my
A
husband
good
says
time or a good story?
Come
it's
from
either a
it.
good time or a good story. I don't know. Forget
It's
him. Okay,
something like
Ellen, you were
that.
saying something.
You said it, and then I was like, oh crap, I don't remember what the saying is either. Yikes. That's okay. We'll think of it later and then we'll laugh. It'll
Yeah.
be fine. Um, but bring us to present day. Something very exciting has happened recently with you in your career. I don't want to steal your thunder. Please share the new and exciting thing that you're going through right now.
Yes. So just as of this week, I'm now kind of what I'm saying is taking my side hustles full time. So I quit my job, which was crazy, and I still don't think it's sunk in. And I'm doing content creation and then the social club full time, which is so exciting, but
That's
so
amazing.
crazy.
Congratulations. Very
Thank
exciting.
you. I'm super excited. Yeah. Again, it hasn't sunk in, but I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I was gonna ask like how's the roller coaster of the first week been for you?
The first week is good. I told myself before that I was going to give myself a week to just get organized and do things that I've been putting off, even as much as like cleaning out my closet and like things like that, just to have like mental clarity. But
Totally.
then, of course, in like typical me fashion, I like booked my calendar up. So I had like a pretty busy week of meetings and things like that, which is so exciting. And I think that was good for me because I think if I had an empty calendar, I would have woken up and been like, what do I do first? So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
been a good transition to stay busy, but I definitely think the biggest thing is I'm going to have to create structure for myself because, like I've said, I kind of thrive in chaos and I have less chaos now, which is amazing. And that's what I've been so excited for. I think I need to step back and like take a breath and get organized and really create a strategy for what's next. And so that's kind of also what this week has been is just figuring out what the next goals are and what this is going to look like more long term.
Ooh, I
Lexie,
am excited.
what Enneagram type are you?
Okay, I always forget, but I'm pretty sure I'm a 3.
I
Totally.
knew it. I smelled it from a mile away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Whenever I tell
Probably.
people that, they're like, "You're totally a 3." Like I don't get. I'm not like I don't know about all of the different numbers very much, but I have friends that do. And before I even took the test, they're like, "You're a 3."
Don't even take it.
I hope that's an okay thing.
We'll save you your time.
Thanks.
You're a 3. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have shameless plug again. We have a lot of Midwest gals that listen to the podcast, and if they don't live in Dallas or Houston or one of the other Texas locations you have, can you give us a sneak peek of like how the business is growing? I know that you recently expanded into Florida. Like, what's on the horizon?
Yeah, definitely more cities to come this year, which is really exciting. I am kind of working on which ones to tackle first. We have
Mhm.
Chicago that is in the work, so I'm really excited for that one. And then we have a couple others that are in like the really early stages. But if you're in a city that you want happy hours to be in, definitely shoot me a DM or an email because I'd love to like chat about that. But that's really first is expanding to different cities, also getting the newer cities that we've added on a more regular cadence. So we like to do monthly events in all of our cities. So just working up to kind of figuring out what that looks like in all of the cities to bring those monthly events to life.
Lexi, that is seriously so incredible. And to think that the story of like bringing people together and having coffee then like blossomed into this club, which now is like your full-time gig and taking it out. Like, I love when the stories have just this like very simpleton beginning and then now it's just this like crazy thing. So I know, and especially given everything that you've accomplished in your life and just the visibility that you've given us in the 45 minutes we've been talking, like, you get shit done. Like, you're going to make this work, and so like hopefully you're able to give yourself some time in the next few days to clean out your closet, but then once you have that done, like, watch out, world. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's hop into the big question, Lexi. For you, how do you define success?
I think that's changed so much for me over time. And it's really kind of funny for me to reflect on that. But I've actually had to wrestle a little bit with like, what does my future look like? Because I think I've always thought of myself as someone that would climb the corporate ladder, be in a leadership position at a big company and be, this executive. Like that's like kind of the dream that I had for myself. And doing this full time is really wasn't necessarily like the plan from the beginning. I didn't see that as what I wanted to do. And really, even if you asked me 6 months ago, I probably would have said, oh, I really like the mix of having a 9 to 5 and also having my own thing on the side. Like, I think I've said that in some of my content. Like, I love having the balance. And so now focusing on one thing, it feels a little crazy. Like, I think I had a little bit of an identity crisis before I made the decision. But I heard someone say recently that success, or, reaching, the point that you want to reach can be defined by like how you're able to dedicate your time. And I think that that's something new that gets me really excited, that I think will be my new benchmark for success. Like, I think in the future, I definitely want to be a mom one day, and I want to have a family, and I want to be able to be involved to the extent that my mom was involved. Like, I had the best childhood, and, I loved having her around so much. So I think now it's like, how do I build these businesses or continue to share content in a way that if someone asks me to, go on a random trip, I have the flexibility to just go and do that and create my own schedule, or I can do things during the day with my kids if I need to, but I can also still feel like I have a business and I have that side of me too, just maybe outside of the corporate setting. So I think that's like the new measure of success, is like having flexibility. But also, I would not be surprised if one day, you guys, that I like go back to corporate. Like, I'm not making any firm decisions right now. Like, this is right
Flexible.
now, but the dream change, and the dream does change, and who knows?
But again, we're seeing that strategy piece like weave its way through. I mean, like, you're setting yourself up for success for whatever direction you go in. So we'll be excited to get some updates along the way. All right, we're going to go into some rapid fire questions. So first, what is one thing you cannot live without to make it through the workday?
Coffee, 100%. I've got it right
Love
here. I got to the point that I was consistently making like 2 lattes a day, and I was like, I've got to cut back. I was like shaking. Especially at our office, Sarah. I don't know if you've had the cold.
Yeah.
It literally will like send you bouncing off the wall. So I had to
like lighter fluid. Yeah, no, haven't had it. Okay, coffee, always the best answer. Favorite benefit or best benefit that you've had?
Definitely unlimited PTO. That was pretty great.
It's hard to beat.
Yeah,
it has its ups and downs, but hard to beat for sure.
Yes.
Maybe this will be a nod back to internship days, but what is your least favorite corporate catchphrase?
Oh gosh. Least favorite. That's a hard one. Maybe like, let's circle back, but I don't like that one at the same time. That one with like people don't actually circle back.
No follow through. Yeah. Or when somebody that you know is not going to actually circle back, you're just like, okay, that's just like out there now. All right. And then last question, in person, hybrid, or remote?
Ooh, I would say hybrid, but like leaning towards remote. But I love having like at least like one day a week or like something in person to have that connection.
Agreed. Well, Lexie, thank you so much for joining. I know that this is like very timely and we're so excited to be sharing this. But obviously Anna and I have been following you for a while. And so we're excited to continue watching this, new phase and this new journey for you. And like I said, like, you've done so much to get yourself to this point. So be proud of everything that you've done and know that we'll be cheering you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. You guys are killing it as well. Like, I feel like you can probably relate to so many of the things. You guys are juggling a job, a podcast. Like, that's so much work and you guys are crushing it. So thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And we'll include everywhere that you can find Lexie and happy hours. And hopefully she'll be in your city. If not now, hopefully soon. But thanks everybody for listening. Remember, at the end of the day, it's literally just a job. We'll see ya.